What's up guys, Mitchell Watts with Town & Country TV, and today I'm at the Alabama Auto Show and I'm here to show you everything you need to know about the new 2020 Shelby GT500. But before we get started in this video, I'm not going to name their names specifically, but thank you to the people at Ford Motor Company that helped get this car to this Alabama Auto Show, so that way everybody can touch it, feel it, and smell it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the car. Derived heavily off of the Shelby GT350, the new GT500 has a completely different front end. You'll notice that it's got still the same or a similar front bumper, but it's painted high gloss black to make it have the illusion that it has one massive grille. But as you come closer, you've got a beautiful Cobra logo. You've got a very similar front chin splitter from the Shelby GT350, but I love these hard lines that come all the way down. It's very aggressive, and we'll show you a little bit in just a second why we say that, but the front end is just as aggressive as the car itself is. Now, as we talk about the hood of the vehicle, it's also completely different compared to the Shelby GT350. First thing you'll notice, you do actually have hood pins that are self-locating, so that way you don't have to worry about the hood flying off while you're racing this thing around a track. Now, the other thing that I want to point out to you is that in the past, sometimes you'll have these hood vents that are just literally designed to expel the hot gases out of the engine. That's actually not the intention here. The design for it is designed to actually create downforce, or really just to reduce the lift from the front hood. So you've got so much air coming in the front that they are allowing these gills to help keep the lift off of this hood. You don't want it to fly up while you're driving, which this vehicle, by the way, will go up to 180 miles an hour. That is governor limited by the manufacturer. And the reason for that, Ford Motor Company is actually saying this car is not designed to go around a big oval track. It's designed to go, around a Barber Motor Speedway or a smaller track where you're not going to hit 180 miles an hour. It's also designed for, an application where you can use it at the drag strip. But I want to show you one of the next features that is probably one of my favorite of the new Shelby GT500, and that is the wheels. So the Shelby GT500, it doesn't come with these wheels standard. This is an optional. So this is the optional carbon fiber track package, and you'll notice that it not only has carbon fiber wheels in the front and the rear, but it also is exposed carbon, meaning that you can actually see that it's real carbon. If you remember that Shelby GT350R, it also had carbon fiber wheels, but the biggest shame about it is that those wheels, you couldn't tell because they were painted gloss black. Now, I want to showcase down in here, you'll notice this is a very rough material. A lot of people think that's unfinished. That's actually not what that is. That is a ceramic coating that was originally devised or designed by NASA to help reduce the heat, because these calipers are absolutely massive. The calipers are massive, and so are the brakes. And speaking of the actual brakes, you've got a 6-piston in the front, and you've got a 4-piston in the rear. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the actual size of the rotors themselves, because those things are huge, 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 huge. So the front rotors are 16.54 inches tall, and they're 1.57 inches wide. Now, the rear rotors are not as big, but they're not far from it. Those are 14.57 inches tall, and they're 1.1 inches thick. Now, the cool part about that is you almost have, you've got 2 calipers, one in the front and one in the rear. This thing is not only designed to go fast, it's also designed to stop fast. And that is a huge, very, very important part of the new Shelby GT500. Now let's take a look underneath the hood of this Shelby GT500. Now, you'll notice I just popped the hood, but it doesn't actually open. You can't get to the latch yet because you've got these self-locating hood pins. You got to push them both down, and then now the hood will pop up to where you can get to the actual latch itself. So when you open the hood, now keep in mind this is very much a pre-production prototype, but as you can tell, this does have that 5.2 supercharged V8 engine. Now, this thing, Ford is advertising that it makes well over 700 horsepower. To tell you exactly how much at the time of the recording of this video, Ford has not announced that, but need to know that it is going to be well over 700 horsepower. The supercharger that you have on top is a 2.65 liter Eaton supercharger. Now, this whole engine together is making 9.5 to 1 compression ratio, and the reason they do that is because there's so much boost going into the motor. If you left that high compression ratio on there, it spells disaster. So Ford has re-engineered this engine correctly. This is not just a remanufactured 5.2 5.2 out of the GT350. This is completely different. This engine also happens to have a cast aluminum oil pan, the magnesium strut tower brace, as you can see right there across the top, to make sure the chassis is nice and stiff. And then you also happen to have an increased oil capacity up to 11 quarts on the new GT500. It's going to take a while to get used to saying that. Now, the piston cooling jets is a feature that Ford Motor Company has opted for on this engine. Basically, what's happening is there are little jets on the underside of the motor that's spraying oil onto the actual piston to cool it off. So that way you can operate at a higher temperature. It gets that temperature away from the motor and keeps everything nice and healthy. One of the most controversial things on this new car is the transmission. No longer can you get a manual transmission in the new GT500. The 7-speed Tremec automatic dual clutch, by the way, it is a wet dual clutch transmission, is the only way to spec this car. Now, the good news is that it's going to offer some very, very fast shift speeds between, downshifting and upshifting, but no more can you drive a manual transmission in this car. And one of the things that I don't necessarily like is the rotary gear shift dial. It looks nice, it fits in the place, but it looks like it's directly out of a Ford Fusion. It would have been nice if they could have re-engineered a higher quality appearing gear shift dial. One of the things I can't necessarily show you because the car's on the ground, but this car has a carbon fiber composite drive shaft, which is intended for extremely high horsepower applications, and it's also going to save you some weight. So a very cool fact on that new Shelby GT500. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about is the suspension system. It has a CCD, continuously controlled dampening suspension system, that can detect what's going on with these tires over 1,000 times a second. And now this system is derived originally from the Shelby GT350, but know that this is going to be completely retuned for the new GT500 high output application. On the inside of the vehicle, the plushness is going to be very similar to the new Shelby GT350 from the previous version. You will have a couple of more options as far as plushness goes. On the center console, you do have some custom stitching that you can have done, and also you'll notice that the Sync 3 system is carried over from the Shelby GT350. One of the things I want to point out to you is on the actual instrument cluster itself, and on the actual dash, you have the ability to go with a carbon fiber instrument panel, and it looks gorgeous, as you can see on this particular car. The last thing I want to talk about is you do have the Recaro seats on this particular vehicle, and those are going to hold you in very, very snugly, very similar to the Recaro seats on the GT350. Coming around to the rear of the vehicle, you'll notice this car does have a dual exhaust system with quad tips. And why they do that, you actually have two different tips on either side. One tip is going to be very loud, one is going to be very quiet, and there's an actual active valve in there that's adjusting how loud do you want the car, and that actually leads to a phenomenal sound on this new supercharged 5.2. Now, the other thing that I want to point out to you is that you do have the rear end. You've got your backup light here. You've got a very similar rear end as far as the normal Mustang in the Shelby GT350, the Cobra logo, but this is the last thing that I want to talk about. This is a very much track focused rear spoiler. You'll notice that this car, it is a real carbon fiber and exposed carbon fiber rear wing. Now, the nice part about this is you do have the ability to adjust it if you want to. The only downside though is if you have an Allen wrench, you could probably walk away with what I would guess maybe a $10,000 wing. At least that's what the wing was on the old Shelby GT350R, and it was also carbon fiber. So there you have it. That is our look at the new Shelby GT500. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did and you're feeling like being awesome, make sure to smash that thumbs up button. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and also hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. Thank you so much for watching this video, and have a great day.